All right. 6:30. All right. We are going to get started here in just a moment. It is 6:30 and we should be ready to go here in just a moment. We do have to wait for a good bulk of the viewers to come on tonight, so we'll let everybody get a little bit of a chance. And I typically like to start on time, and we'll give it just a few minutes and we'll get rolling here. Thank you all for turning out. Okay, I'm going to be screen sharing here right out of the gates. So now that now that we're going to have some people rolling in, we'll get going here. All right, so you are here for 3 massive misconceptions that parents have that keep them in constant conflict with their teens and how to rebuild a strong bond. So I'm the bond builder here, Donovan Dreyer, and I'm here to share an incredible presentation with you. It's a super helpful tool that I've developed that I'm excited to share with all of you. All right, before we get going, I've got a question to share, and I know I haven't opened up any mics, so I understand that we're not going to be raising hands here, but I'm going to share the answer with you. So again, my name is Donovan Dreyer with Get Ready Coaching, and I've got a presentation here for you tonight to help you figure out how to go from feeling in constant conflict with your teen to building a strong bond. So thank you so much for coming out tonight to enjoy this presentation and learn something from this training. So I want to ask, do you know what the answer is to all these major challenges we're confronted by out there in the world? There's just so many things coming at us from so many different directions. As parents, you're juggling so many things, but I'm kind of talking about this tough stuff going on in the world. Well, I do. You know, I really do understand what the answer is here. After spending years on this quest to find out, I have the bulk of the answer. And it's really you, the parents, the moms, the dads out there of this world that are most of this answer. So teens growing up in families with strong bonds, they really have a chance to not only deal with these major challenges, they're equipped to thrive. All right, so I've got a presentation here for you tonight. It's called Solving Our Stress, is the tool that you're going to be learning about tonight. And this is a tool, as I said, I've developed that I think is one of the most powerful tools around for you to be able to have the ability to apply at the end of this night. So it is an answer to solving the stress and figuring out how to get past this conflict and rebuild that strong bond. All right, so solving our stress is an indicator. You see the little people up there on the left, they got their hands up in the air, they're looking a little bit stressed out, and then down on the lower side, they're kind of moving into this better state of ease. And you know, that's basically the design of this program here in this indicator. So the very first step on our stress is to assess it, to kind of figure it out and realize that we're in this high level of stress or whatever stress level we're at, not necessarily high level. You got to assess it to figure that out. So what I mean by assessing your stress is understanding what's going on in there. Like, this is the invisible realm. So we're working on some of these misconceptions. And I think the misconception with times when we're struggling with our teenagers out there as parents is that you just kind of keep going and going and going and going, and eventually they're just going to have this epiphany and be like, oh, that's it, mom and dad, I get it. Like, oh, that's just awesome. And that's just not going to happen by pushing on and on and on with the stressful situation and in a conflict situation. You've got to start with figuring out, when you're at those high levels especially, where you are, and that things are not going to get better, and you've just got to figure out you're in that spot. So why this is important is if you don't assess it, you just do continue to keep going on. You're in this reactive mode as a parent, and your teenager is also kind of throwing it back at you, and they might be kind of happy actually that they're not doing the dishes right now because we're all in this heated argument. So it might not even be a major problem for your teenager, but the dishes aren't getting done and everybody's getting a little bit more angry with each other, and that disconnection is getting worse. So that's why assessing it's important. And then let's get into how we do this. How do you assess your stress? So I've created this tool called Solving Our Stress that allows you to, first of all, assess the stress. So we've got a lot going on here, even though it's a pretty simple chart. The essence of it is kind of this green lower section, the yellow middle section, and then the red upper section. So we've got healthy stress in the bottom third. We've got still normal range and pre-crisis as part of the yellow, and then the top part's crisis. Then you've got this lady down here at the bottom with her like okay sign, and we've got the RPM gauge showing at about this nice healthy cruising level. We've got time going off to the right. You could see a little zigzaggy chart going up to the right as well. So that's showing like the rising stress throughout that chart. And then we've got below list the signs and conditions you display at various levels of stress. So this is kind of another SOS. You've got signs of stress. So at the top one under crisis, we've got examples: feeling overwhelmed, stuck in high stress. And in the yellow section, we've got examples like look in the mirror and know that you're tired. And then the bottom part, you got feeling relaxed and alert. And I think, just giving a little bit of background here, I've had kids come into my office and, teenagers throughout the years, and it's really hard sometimes to just figure out what's going on. And so that's the very first step, is like, let's just figure out what's going on here. And this really, really super simple chart with these 3 levels helps provide a structure. Even if they can't label what's going on, they can pretty much pick out the level, like how you doing. And as we can see in this one, the low to high is a higher level of stress. So if we're working on a happiness scale, like how you doing today on a scale of 1 to 10, or we have this flipped upside down, then the happiness would be at the top. But we've got the solving our stress chart laid out with the crisis at the top and the healthy stress at the bottom. And there is healthy stress. This is just where you're looking for a challenge in life and you're going for something. You're trying out for the higher level team or the travel team, or maybe you're taking an AP level class. So there's stresses out there that we welcome. But when that stress rises a little bit, then it gets beyond, starts to get beyond that yellow dotted line. So she's standing up on that dotted line and above there, and you're getting into the pre-crisis level at the top part of it. And then you start to see her freak out, and we got the tachometer way up there in the red. So she's freaking out, she's in crisis, and that's basically the assessment. Like, which of these levels are you at? And can we get there really quick? Yeah, I mean, I talk to people about this all the time. They develop it in their mind's eye in just a short amount of time. And I think you can already see, like, hey, this is pretty simple. We got low, medium, and high. We got green, yellow, and red, match the traffic lights. We got some examples here, from this little visual with the lady creating the the emoji. And so kind of telling a little bit of a story. When I first started developing this, I had a girl that was coming to my office, and you could just see on her face this look of the girl at the top. And she's super frustrated. And I started drawing this on my whiteboard, because that's typically what I'll do. I'll draw up these different levels on the whiteboard, and we'll start plotting the actual stress on the board. And I could definitely see that she was going to be not in the green. But as I started to create it, she just like saw the structure, and I saw her face change. And so I asked her about it, and that's where she told me it really is this structure. She started to see this structure to this thing with 17 things going on inside her, and she couldn't even probably name all of them, all the feelings that were going on inside of her. And she just had this like visible sense of ease or look of ease on her face. And when I asked her about it, she said, wow, just seeing this structure is so cool because all these internal things are so hard to deal with. So that was really awesome to see that example of that student in my office. All right, so now we're going to talk about the effects of stress. So stress can stress us out. We get overwhelmed. And when it keeps on going and stays up in that red level, it's not good. So I've carried over a gas tank. So we got a lot of car examples here because cars have gauges. It's awesome. Like you look at your car gauges and you know what's up really quick. If it's on E, you got to go get some gas. If it's full, you're okay and you're good to go. So I was talking to a teacher on this one, and we were talking about the stress levels. And same thing here, as you go up, you're running out of fuel. So let's go to that top level. She's totally out of fuel. And same freaked out emoji, look on her face, and then empty out of gas. So the effects are, it takes away our energy, basically. And when I was talking to this teacher, it was the middle of the day. There's some very tough things going on in our school. And when I shared it, I was like, okay, let's see where you're at. And we plotted it out and assessed her stress. And then we talked about, well, where's your energy at? Like, you're a teacher, you got to bring it for the kids. And she was really wanting to be there for the kids because she knew they were going through kind of a challenge too. And she thought she was maybe quarter tank to half tank. We talked about a couple minutes more, and she was like, I'm on empty, I'm on fumes, I'm going home, which was awesome because it was 10:30. She had other classes. We got, subs to cover it, but it was awesome for her to just assess it, know that she was heavily affected by the stress, and then she just went to take care of herself. She went back to refuel and recharge and knew that she couldn't be there for kids like that. So that was powerful. That was a really cool example. All right, finally, let's go on to addressing your stress. And we've got one more after this. So it isn't finally yet, so my bad. All right, address your stress. So we've figured out what the level is. Now, based on these 3 different levels, and even the yellow being broken up into 2 levels, wherever you're at, you've got something to do. So addressing your stress means doing something about it. What are you going to do when you're at this certain stress level? And where are you going to turn to for that support and help? And obviously why this one is important is, again, if you don't assess it, it can run out of control. If you don't address it, it could just go on and on and on and on. And I began to ask people, like, well, how long have you been in the red zone? And at first it was like, oh, like since yesterday. And then, it got to be a month. And then the record was 3 months. Then the record was 6 months. And then the record was a year. And that really puts things into perspective. So this timeline is huge. And you can see there's no time written on it. So you can make that up with your own teenager or with yourself and think about, like, wow, like this, if I don't address this stress, it just doesn't go away. And you get more and more and more wound down, or ground down into the ground. So now with addressing your stress, how you do this is you're going to list what you'll do and who you'll turn to at various levels of stress. So at the green level, this is where you've got your self-care, and you see the little guy there with like source of self-esteem and confidence. We really do have to step up and take some challenges in this world to get our confidence going and our self-esteem going. Like, that's the only place that it truly comes from, is by rising to challenges. And you need some help with that, though. And the help that you have in this case, and the SOS that you're sending, is just to yourself. You can do some running, sleeping, music, yoga. I leave some blank spaces there, either on my whiteboard or, as you can see on this slide here, for people to put in their own types of self-care. Then you get to the middle level and you need somebody like maybe a life coach or a parent coach that gives you that expert help. And then if that doesn't help, or if you're already up there in those high levels for an extended period of time, then that might be a counselor or a therapist that's going to be required in that situation. So you can see this guy moving up. So here's get better at proactively turning the trend around. And also this is switched up. You can see this is switched to family and friends. A lot of people do immediately turn to their mom, sister, best friend. And oftentimes, like at that lower level, it might be okay. Like you're still kind of in that normal range. It might just help to vent, kind of release that charge, and have somebody that helps you out. Maybe it's even a dog. There's a lot of things that can help you out in life that's beyond you. And that's where family kind of kicks in. But if you're really going to decompress it and you want to get better at proactively turning the trend around, you really need some skills. So the expert help of a coach is about developing new tools, techniques, strategies, and so on to really turn the stress around. And so as we look at decompressing stress now, what that is once you've gotten kind of a good handle on assessing it, addressing it, and you're really trying to go to this next level, we want to turn it around. We want to catch it earlier. And that's what we got going on here with the expert help in the middle. If we don't catch it early and it isn't addressed and it goes on and on and on and on at that red level, time to get some different professional help besides coach. All right, so these charts are available, and certainly you can email me if you haven't gotten one already. These have been given away in some of the opportunities when you've signed up for the webinar. So solving our stress, number one, you plot your current level of stress, and then to the right is the future. Like we're looking at something that can't be assessed yet, and so you're going to plot at least 2 points in the past, and that's going to be to the left. And that helps you create a pattern leading up to now. So I've got a real example. And I want to mention, too, if you stay to the end of the program, I have this incredible insight that one of our teenagers shared last year, a 9th grader, that just kind of blew me away when this doesn't work. So solving our stress is a pretty amazing tool, but I think that's worth the wait till the end of this webinar and catch the end of the webinar so you can see what this teenager came up with when this fails, where it just doesn't work. So it works great under almost all circumstances, and in those toughest of circumstances, I have something up my sleeve that I pulled directly from a teenager, and it was just brilliant. All right, so now we've got our first plot. So that's today. You come in, we're meeting together, and you're at this level of stress. And if we don't plot any other thing on there, we don't have any context, we don't have a visual yet, we don't have real perspective, except to know, well, that's way up there close to that red line. That's what we've got, and it's awesome that you're here talking to a coach and you're at that level where coach is going to help you just turn that around and get that coming down. So we actually have to go backwards to the left. So now we can start to see, well, if you came from that place yesterday or a month ago and it's rising, you're getting up to that level that's up there near the crisis stage. And now we kind of can see, oh, awesome job coming in to send that little SOS and get some help because you're really verging on that level of crisis. Go back a little bit further, and now we see a little bit more of this picture taking shape, and you had actually flown up into that crisis stage, and you were hanging out there for a day or a month or whatever time frame each one of these boxes is, and then finally, like, you came from a place that was fine and shot up there. This is a real example where one example, so I'm plotting out a real example that I worked through with the chart on the whiteboard. So to give you an example of this could be a parent that the teenager just told this huge lie and they were fine one day, and then they wake up the next day and hear this big lie, and they're really stressing out about it, like, what does that mean, and I can't trust my kid, and just really freaking out the very next day. So we got the lowest plot in the healthy area, shot right up to the crisis stage, started to come back down, but then it began to rise again. And maybe that's because there just wasn't really an effective way to address the situation yet, and some concern around that. So the cool thing is, so you're shooting up there, coming back down, and then on the way back up, and we don't know how high that was going to rise. Obviously we want that to get back in the red zone. This is the pattern. We have a visual now of this invisible state of stress. And then we talked, chatted it out, worked it through. And there's the cool part. This is the part that I'm really excited for, where you've got a tangible thing here when you're working on an intangible, invisible aspect of life like stress or emotions. And here it is plotted out. So we worked it through, and we got this X on the same day, because it was like 20 minutes later. We got to a better spot than any place on that chart since the kind of tough issue began. So that's kind of the power of getting some help and sending out that SOS for yourself. And the very cool thing about this chart is you got a tangible way to show what's going on here. So there's the visual difference of something that's totally invisible. Other than you can kind of see it on people's face, but sometimes you can't. So, I've got a lot of concerns over the years as a coach, where what do you do when somebody's like got that mask on and they're posing like it's all okay and they're just hiding it? That there's a lot going on inside, and doesn't matter. Healthy stress, they're happy. Middle of the pre-crisis stage on up, they're still showing no outward clues to spot. And even in the crisis stage, still got the smiling face, and it's kind of a trip. Like, how on earth could this be going on? And this is the one I was talking about, where the teenager gave the brilliant insight. All right, so I asked him, like, what are you going to do if somebody's coming across and they're in this crisis stage and you've got no way of knowing it, and this is what they're showing? And at first he's like, well, I'm just going to look closer at the face. I was like, well, kind of beat you on that one. Like, I cut and pasted this. This is not a different face. Every last one of these is the same. All right, so we got the same face all the way on up, and he took, like, I don't know, maybe it was just like 2 or 3 more minutes. And then he kind of blew my mind. He said, well, because I've seen some really tough stuff in my career, obviously, and working with parents and teens for 15 years. So I just like was head over heels, like excited when he shared with me that he said, well, you know how we're moving through the hallways and we're just like, hey, how you doing? Fine. What's up? How you doing? Fine. And then you move on. Well, that's the normal way things work. But every once in a while, I think if somebody's happy, especially like a teenager, happy all the time, you should ask a second layer question. And, I was like chomping at the bit to hear what this answer was and what this other question was. And, just wondering, well, what to do under such a situation? Like, how do you handle it? And what's this kid going to come up with? And I'm always blown away by teenagers. I don't know about you, but, some people could be freaking out about them and worried about how much rebellion's there and how much conflict is there. But I'm absolutely amazed. So this was his question. So he said, sometimes when you're passing in the hallway, instead of just saying, hey, how you doing, and just moving on quickly after saying we're both fine, if you got 15, 20 minutes and you can give a little bit extra time to your buddy that day, you could ask this question: how are you really doing? Like, all right, yeah, you're fine, that's good, you look like you're doing fine, everything looks good, but how are you really doing? And if you build this into a culture of a school or a culture of a community or into your family, this key question, it's kind of like this known thing that if you ask that question, it means, hey, I got a little extra time on my hands. I really want to know how you're doing today. And you can let your guard down. And even if you don't let your guard down, at least now you got somebody. Where there are times, definitely for teenagers, lots of times sometimes, where they just don't feel like there's somebody that's going to give them that trust factor where they can let their guard down. So this was super powerful. And, our community's really been going through a tough time. And this was a really powerful way for us to kind of get through the mask that gets put up so often. All right, so I've got big sheets, and these can be requested if you don't have one already. And this one is for your signs of stress that you can fill out. Make up another copy for your teenager, everybody in your family, really, so that everybody can kind of know what shows on the outside, what is there to look for under these different levels of stress. And in healthy stress, you might be feeling relaxed and alert. You're just kind of in the zone. At the pre-crisis stage, you can look in the mirror sometimes and just know, man, I am exhausted. And then at the crisis stage, you've got examples like feeling overwhelmed, stuck in high stress, and maybe you're just like absolutely dog tired and just can't do anything to get out of bed, and so on. And finally, like what will you do under these different circumstances? Who are family and friends that you can turn to if it's kind of lower yellow level? It's still kind of in that normal range. Or what do you do for your self-care, and who are the people that you turn to for that expert help? And again, we've got that middle part with the expert help. So you got the expert help of a professional who can turn it around for you before it gets too high and decompress that stress. And then if it's been up there for a really long time, sometimes when it's crossed that red line, you need to have that understanding, like, I've crossed the line. Like, we're past that bold red level, and that's significant, and it's been there a long time, and that means I'm stuck. I've got to send that SOS. I've got to ask for help under this circumstance. That's just where it is. All right, so I got another one that could be printed out as well. A nice big one here where you can plot it out. I recommend print it out in color and even get it laminated. And here's one that take up a little less color copy and just with the 3 levels. So I got the 4 levels and the 3 levels that you can use, but it's as easy as getting a whiteboard or even a little white piece of paper out, and you can draw these 3 levels and start to get the assess, address, and decompress all figured out when it comes to stress. All right, so I've got a Parent with Ease class coming up and Parent with Ease breakthrough sessions. And I want to talk a little bit about, before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about the state of things in the modern age and talk about some of these answers and how I really do believe that you're the answer as a parent. And when we look at the, maybe the 1800s and people were farming, there was this team concept and everybody worked together and the family was really tight and the extended family was all around. And we've gotten away from that big time. And I think what we've really lost is this feeling like we can reach out and get some people on our team as parents. And the way the society's kind of grown and changed, that's just kind of been a natural occurrence that we've moved into this mode of not having a team. And I really believe it takes a team to raise a teenager. And with the Parent with Ease breakthrough session, that's what we talk about is maybe we're a good fit, you and I, to create a team of support for you as you're looking to improve your relationship with your kid and rebuild that strong bond if you're not feeling it's there anymore, to deal with the conflict. We've got an SOS tool tonight that you've learned how to use and can, I think, pretty easily apply it immediately. And I think that's a really cool thing. There's a powerful, powerful tool. When it doesn't work, you have a trick up your sleeve as well from our teenager from last year who came up with a brilliant idea last school year. And I have a class coming up as well. And I'm going to do a Parent with Ease class. And that's, we'll talk about that here in a minute. All right. Okay, so I want to talk about some of the takeaways here, and I'll zoom my camera down a little bit. And what I wanted you to receive today is the ability to apply one of the best methods to solve our stress by the end of this training. And I really believe that that's something that you'd be able to do now. And I also think the main answer to the major challenges that parents face out in the world today is you. You've got to look in the mirror and kind of figure out, how am I going to do it better? And that's it. Like you're the answer, which is really, I think, a cool thing and empowering. So that's it, man. I just want to let you know that this is my discovery. 15 years working in schools and as a coach as well for parents of teens and teenagers. It's awesome. And there's this other dynamic of where you go next. So when you invest further, I want to let you know that I've got an opportunity to give some of these parent sessions so that you can parent with ease again, and they're free. This is a great opportunity for you to get a lot of clarity on your dreams and your ultimate goals as a parent and what you'd like to do for your teenager. Like to offer up an opportunity to answer questions. If anybody's got a question, there is a chat box that you can type in. So I'll take a look there in case anything pops up on the chat box. But if there's something that you'd like some additional information on, feel free to fire away with a question here. So again, this asking for help is a huge, huge step in the right direction. So sending out the SOS. This is kind of a tool, but SOS has a lot of meanings, and I use that acronym on purpose, obviously. It has a great meaning. It's that old school way of sending out that call for help. And when it gets to that level, when you're really feeling like you can't get out of that constant struggle, that constant conflict, and you're just like craving as a dad or a mom to rebuild that strong bond, and that's something like you'd like to get started with, I've got a class, and this class is going to be offered for $497 soon. But for this next session that I'm going to present it, I'm going to be offering it for $297. And even at the 497 level, this is something that is about a third of the price of getting that many sessions within coaching. And so as we look at this class, it breaks down into going from reactive mode to responsive. Another huge thing as we continue kind of getting more educated around the things I've discovered that have, things that have worked really well with families. And this responsiveness, moving from that ability to, moving from getting stuck in the constant conflict to be more responsive, that's one of the things that rebuilds a strong bond. And SOS is an awesome tool for that. And then like getting more proactive, having some intentionality and having some real strength of goal setting and direction, and getting out of that passive mode, like, they're teenagers and we just don't have that ability to dig in anymore and make a big difference in their lives because they're just too old. So reclaim that, like that positive force to get after it with intention and to be proactive. And then another huge thing is to be adaptable. Like this world's changing so fast, and you've got to remember, like all the time, you've got developmental changes happen with your teenager too. It's just like constant change during the middle school, high school years, and that's tough. I get it. And then we move into figuring out like what are some success strategies and can they be simple? To me, I've discovered the more complex I make it with teenagers and their families, the less it is able to stick. So I've got a lot of super simple strategies that help you be successful with your teenager and in your family. And so you've seen one of them tonight, SOS. It's one of my best. Like this is the one I really want everybody to have just for safety. Like we've got to be able to understand where our kids are. We've got to be able to have a language that guys can speak, teenage girls can speak, and guys seem to have the toughest time with it. All right, and then finally, it's about living the lessons. So you got to live your lessons, not lecture them. These kids out there are really going to be tuning out after like 7 seconds of lecture. If you've ever tried to lecture a teenager, you know what I'm talking about. And those are kind of the things that are going to be covered within the class. And so you've got the opportunity for a free breakthrough session. You've got the opportunity to join me in a class. And let me see, I'm going to pull back up here. Go back to screen sharing. And pull up this page one more time. So we've got the Parent with Ease breakthrough session, and you've got the opportunity to join this class as well. You can email me at donovan@getreadycoaching.com or call 970-541-2560. I've got this new cool thing too with, if anybody wants to get the newsletter that I have and you'd like to spread that around, you just need to text Donovan, D-O-N-O-V-A-N, to 33444. And when you do that, it'll set you up to get your email, once you share the email, onto my list to subscribe to all the blog posts that I create. And when I offer this class again, to review the stress solutions. And then also when I offer classes and opportunities to do these breakthrough sessions. So I do have some openings for breakthrough sessions right now, and I'd love to offer that to you. And let's come back to this here. And stop sharing. All right. So I don't see any questions in the chat box, and I am going to open up the opportunity to sign up for the class. Okay, let's see. Well, looks like I might be having some technical difficulties on that. Let's see here. All right, well, I am having a little bit of a technical difficulty on sharing the opportunity to sign up for the class. Let's see here. Okay, well, you definitely can email me if you're interested in the class. That's probably going to be coming up in the next 3 weeks. when we get some more signups. And the opportunity to do a breakthrough session is definitely available right now as well. So feel free to send an email. And within that session, it's really an opportunity for you to get real clarity on your dreams as a parent, and creating a dream home, not in the sense of like that house structure, but I'm talking about the dream home, like really having that strong bond. You can't have a bond tight enough. So if you've got a pretty good bond now, I'd really like to give you that opportunity to strengthen it and tighten it and really have your teen well equipped to go out into this world and thrive. And that's a real possibility. I believe in it. I've seen it happen many times, and I've got a lot of experience that backs up what it takes to really get there. And I believe those things are transferable. Any family that's interested to create that intention to have a dream home and a dream family and these tight bonds can have it. All right, don't see any questions, so we will call it a night. Thank you so much for tuning in, and feel free to be in touch. Donovan Dreyer with Get Ready Coaching with SOS, Solving Our Stress. Good night.